was a lovely introduction. It's I kind of felt that you could go on for a while, which means I'm getting old. I thought I'd start this evening off with a couple of spells. I got interested in the idea of spell making or writing something to be enchanting. After reading the section in Northrop Frye's Anatomy of Criticism, where he talks about it very briefly, but it caught my eye, the notion of how does something, what does a spell sound like? And he looks at not just spell making, but also insult making. And they're related, interestingly. I guess it's because it comes from somewhere amazingly visceral. You want to connect the words to that visceral meaning. And I realized after that Tennyson's Lady of Shalott was probably the most sustained, beautiful spell, enchantment in the English language. So I'm going to read one from my first book called Spell for a Wardrobe. Each pocket let him in, each stitch hold to him, each earring listen, bracelets go, belts loosen, brooches pierce, buttons pop to point the way. This golden necklace clasp by clasp to me will show its eye to sign he thinks of me, and rest upon my breast in sympathy. Each quarter-inch this cinching garter slip, each rung that tracks along each stocking's run, tell the mounting minutes that his mind's on me. This hairpin came with wishes from his heart. If it slip, he's been untrue. A poison pin he pinned to you, return it to his heart. Wardrobe, wardrobe, hold me in foretelling folds, sparkle and crinkle and swish, it's told. The next one's from Skulduggery, and it's called Night Shift. The owl skurs for mouse, and in his gut he turns her inside out. The bat weaves through the crisscross trees, wings upon her sonar pings to trap the bug and feel him sing. Owl, wise anatomist, studies the tissues, then spits the gist, the shag and bone of what exists. And bat, dread acrobat, flips the forest upside down, and all the creatures underground, the shrew, the hedgehog, and the mole, fall out like rattled soldiers from their burrowed holes. So that's how I was going to start. And did. There's another section in Skulduggery. I tend to write in sort of batches. And this one is a series of guns. I started looking into guns, and I realized that there were some names that resembled, well, they had the same names as certain poets, such as the Browning Colt 45. I thought that Browning, I didn't know he made guns. And I thought, I could do this with a few, because Dickinson has that famous poem about, my life, it stood a loaded gun. And then I imagined this sort of shop where someone might be selling such items. And thought about how he might go about selling, the different ones might do. And then I made a couple of guns up. And this one's called the Burns Rimfire. I think there is a gun called a Rimfire, I'm not sure, but it got me thinking one way or another about Robbie Burns and some of his raunchier poetry. And I put this together. And it says in small type under the title, to be read in one's best brogue. I kind of feel like I should get Margaret to read it, because mine is not that good. But here we go nonetheless. It's called the Burns Rimfire. Annabelle and me, we've done it. We've done it twice upon the floor. But when I took my hat, she barred my way, and we shagged again against the door. Oh, doys, I said, I must go. I promised, lassie, that I love thee, and I'll soon be back for more. It's been a fortnight since, and the ichor in my knickers is swollen pretty sore. No matter how I squeeze and pinch it, I cannot make the beastie pee without it causing me to roar, without it feeling like the deal has filled the thing with buckshot, and Odin's hammer falls upon it. Though it ails me as the flesh, the way that love is tied to death has gotten to my rotten soul. Now I know that I must go to hell, for banging thrice my Annabelle, but Holy Mother art in heaven, if thou might find it in thine heart to cure a man of fickle pleasure, I promise I will teach the lads the dangers of the buck fever, warn them off the foul hagbutt, and spare them from the burns. Hagbutt, by the way, is a type of rifle. I don't know what you guys were thinking. And an ichor is Scots for a cob of corn, and it comes up, of course, in the famous Burns poem about a mouse, or two a mouse. So that's the Burns rimfire, a very dangerous gun. And I wrote this other gun piece to Michael Harris, my mentor. I actually call Skulduggery my Scottish book, and this one my Jewish book, The Mechanical Bird, because there's poems in here about Israel, where I spent 10 years. So this one is called the Harris Backlock. This is, of course, there's no such gun, but Michael Harris has some back trouble. The Harris Backlock is a breech-loading weapon, which means the barrel, that is the backbone, snaps open thus. Left unlubed, it tends to jam, exposing the breech bush and the interrupted screw. Relative to sliding block mechanisms, this one is slower, but does not require cartridge cases, and handles better rearward thrust on fire. Unlike its confreres, including the latent wedlock, and the Solway repeater, this model is equipped with the Horatian shot box, essentially a bullet-collecting drawer, for although this rifle packs enough firepower to sink ships, the issue of a round might take up to 20 years with cajoling. Due to the sound the backlock makes as slugs clatter into the magazine, it is nicknamed the chuckling gun. Though a favorite among collectors, the backlock is by no means an insurgency gun for mass production. Any home of taste that has one generally keeps it out of sight, especially from the wife, because its suggestive anatomy can be offensive to house guests. Its full cock mechanism, you see, and the peculiar kink of its crosshairs have been known to stare down gorgons and raise the blood in the ears and eyes of the purest bred, pure white hounds. Mavens claim it's a harmless device meant for sport and pot shots at stars. According to legend, it was a chuckling gun that put those pot marks on the moon. From what I know, when hunting with one, the trees transform into deer, the stones run with wine, and squirrels reveal their caches of acorn gold. And this one here is the Le Faucheux pinfire, which is to be read with the French inflection, which I'm more equipped for. The Le Faucheux pinfire is a real weapon. It was the actual weapon held by Verlaine when he shot Rimbaud in 1873. The two of them were teenage lovers, and homosexuality at the time was illegal. It was outlawed if you were found out to be buggerer. You would be shunned by society, and possible legal actions could be taken. So, on the threat of Rimbaud leaving Verlaine, he got very, very upset. It wasn't the first time, but this time he went out and, well, he already had a gun. He went out and bought a gun. And I imagine their meeting. So there's a bit of an epigraph here. Voilà pour toi, puisque tu parles. And these are the words that he said just before he shot Rimbaud. So it wasn't a lethal shot. He missed him and shot him in the wrist. Well, I mean, he actually hit him, but not anywhere important. Here's to you, my love. I shall drink from the bottle, and you, being more refined, you may take one shot at a time. Absinthe. My very own eau de toilette. Smells good on the sleeve, no? When you slip your tongue in my ear, am I not sweet? Don't you like to suck on a solid stick of licorice? Where will you go now, my love? Now that you have ruined me. Do not look at me with sober scrutiny, hypocrite. You see this revolver? What for? Why, it's for me, for you, for everyone, my love. Hey, do not walk away from me. Look at this handsome piece. You see these pins? You pull back the hammer like so. Sit down, tapette. I shall tuck it back in my belt if it will comfort you. And voila, here's a round of drink, and a round of ammunition. So we can get ourselves loaded, yes? Now, you see this pin? The hammer, as I was explaining, strikes this little penis here, which in turn does the passive one a favor. Oh, do not be squeamish. You know a good bang, my chum. This thing here, it nails that spot. The one that makes you clench, huh? The one that fires you up. You know the one. Well, a gun, my love, is much the same as a man. If you trigger him at the wrong time, well, he might blow you in the eye. And a man who drinks, a man who shoots from the deck of a rocking boat, though he aim for your heart, who is to say what he might hit? And I'll conclude with a couple pieces from the workshop. This one's called Grease and Rust. Every tool is the anointed king of his work. Even as it waits and fades into the general mess, even if it sinks to the status of a handle poking from a box behind the curtain, beneath the counter, a wire coiled round the grip, its head near drowned in a pool of screws, a coat of oil repels corruption, while the handle waits. The vice is seasoned black with grease. Black grease is cleanest in the shop, where rust is the enemy. Clean means strongholds of metal free of rust. Everything blessed with oil, like the hair of heroes, saints, prophets, and messiahs. Grease fills the surface scratch that will never heal, settles deep into the score against all agents of rust. Each tool is patient and confident. It is meant for the job it was designed to do best. It will wait if it is used for only a moment in a rock's life, or for 1,000 years in the tribal life. It will wait. The workman has observed this waiting, the slouched hanging from the board, like the one square hanging in the ready with the level to get it all straight, the way the other levels laid aside wait with bubbles of air, like held breaths that can tell when all is aligned and gravity agrees that the work is plumb with the heart of the world. Some say the patience of the workman is the virtue of his shop, but truly the virtue is motion. Rest is not how things get done. Rest is how rust creeps into the world. This one's called A Workshop Run by Rust. Erosion is the mark of love carved in chalky cliffs and left to the wind to press like an unrelenting kiss that bruises and smothers and smudges the names from the hearts that were penknifed in stone, stone having offered no heart of its own. The workshop of rust works breathlessly without compunction for the organic shapings that work miracles from its slag, and by their own devices make dirt turn on rust and work toward their own exhaustion to keep the water at bay or make the breakwater dash the crashing of the waves. Rust shows no mercy. It takes rust centuries to bat an eye. When the workman's reflection catches on a chrome bend, he senses an oblique adversary backwards working the shop to grist. For the other workshop, where a pinch sprinkled on the seasonal wheel will run the natural migration of steel and give a grape charge to ionize rust. Then rust becomes food, turns flesh, angelic engineer of all endings, keeper of the red gate. Whatever the finale sound, says rust, the end begins with a squeak. Thank you.